12. Best perennial vines for hot climates. Transform your garden with earthly delights. Hello and welcome, friends, to Earthly Delights. If you're here today, I know something about you already. You're someone who loves plants, but not just any plants. You're curious about how to bring life into your home and garden. You crave beauty even when the weather feels unforgiving. And you want practical advice that doesn't just sit in a book, but actually works in your real space. Maybe you've stared at a blank fence or a sun-soaked wall and thought, how do I turn that into something alive and inspiring? Or maybe you're tired of seeing your favorite plants wither under the summer heat and are searching for resilient, long-lasting solutions. This video is for you. Today, we'll uncover the 12 best perennial vines for hot climates. Plants that don't just survive the heat, but thrive in it, transforming your garden into a green sanctuary filled with shade, color, fragrance, and even food. Along the way, I'll share my years of hands-on experience, the mistakes I've learned from, and the tricks that keep these vines growing strong. Think of this as your personal guide, created for plant lovers like you, busy homeowners, balcony gardeners, and dreamers who want their outdoor spaces to be both practical and magical. So before we dive into our first vine, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the Earthly Delights community, where soil meets soul and every plant has a story. 1. Bougainvillea, the bold survivor of hot gardens. When most people imagine a vine thriving under relentless sunshine, Bougainvillea is often the first to come to mind, and for good reason. With its striking magenta, orange, or fuchsia bracts, this plant brings an instant festival of color to even the harshest corners of the garden. But here's the fascinating truth. What you see as flowers are not flowers at all, but papery bracts that protect the tiny white blooms inside. That means when Bougainvillea bursts into bloom, it feels like your garden has been painted with a brush dipped in tropical fire. For those of you who struggle with alkaline soils or reflected heat bouncing off walls and patios, Bougainvillea is a reliable friend. It doesn't just tolerate these conditions, it seems to embrace them. And if space is an issue, don't worry. Bougainvillea can be grown in the ground to cover an arbor or trellis, but it can also be contained in a large pot where its growth is easier to manage. The beauty of this vine is its flexibility. It will shape itself into a sprawling bush if trimmed that way, or climb upward if given proper support. Now, I'll be honest, Bougainvillea can be messy, dropping its bracts like colorful confetti across your yard. But isn't that part of its charm? Each petal that drifts to the ground feels like a reminder of its abundance. With a little pruning in spring, regular deep watering, and a light touch of fertilizer, you'll find that this survivor of hot climates is more than just a plant. It's a celebration that keeps coming back, season after season. 2. Cape honeysuckle, the hummingbird's favorite flame. If Bougainvillea is the vine that throws a party, then Cape honeysuckle is the vine that quietly keeps the guests coming back. This plant may not shout with size the way Bougainvillea does, but its clusters of fiery orange and red blooms make it one of the most enchanting sights in a hot climate garden. And the best part? Those blossoms are like magnets for hummingbirds and bees. If you've ever wanted to sit in your yard and watch nature dance just a few feet away, Cape honeysuckle delivers that daily show. What makes it special for gardeners like you, those balancing small spaces or looking for flexibility, is its dual nature. It can be trimmed into a rounded shrub or trained up a trellis to become a graceful climber. Whether you're dressing up a dull wall or creating a soft curtain of greenery over an arbor, this plant adapts to your vision. It loves the sun but appreciates a little afternoon shade when the heat is at its most unforgiving, making it a reliable choice even for patios and courtyards that get scorching light. Of course, like every good guest, Cape honeysuckle leaves a little behind. It drops a few flowers and leaves year-round. But the reward outweighs the cleanup. With steady watering and a gentle trim after cold snaps, this vine grows with surprising speed, offering beauty that never really fades. Imagine stepping outside and seeing bright splashes of flame-colored blooms, hearing the hum of wings, and knowing your garden isn't just surviving the heat. It's alive, thriving, and full of visitors who love it just as much as you do. 3. Climbing roses romance that endures the heat. Now let's move from fiery orange blossoms to something timeless, something that whispers elegance the moment you see it. Climbing roses. For many, roses feel like delicate divas, suited only to mild climates. But the truth is that with the right care, climbing roses can thrive even under a hot, demanding sun. Imagine walking through your garden and seeing a trellis or archway covered in layers of velvety petals, each bloom a small miracle of color and fragrance. That kind of beauty doesn't just decorate your space, it transforms it into a sanctuary. Climbing roses need plenty of sun, but they repay you generously with flushes of flowers from spring until fall. They do ask for a little more attention: fertile, well-draining soil, regular watering, and seasonal pruning. But for plant lovers like you, the ones who don't just want greenery, but living art in the garden, this effort feels more like ritual than chore. Every time you deadhead a faded bloom or guide a cane onto its support, you're shaping the story of your garden. And the payoff, a vine that becomes a centerpiece, a conversation starter, and a backdrop for moments you'll remember. Climbing roses may not be the easiest guest in your garden, but they are the one that will leave the deepest impression. They are romance woven into green canes and thorny stems, resilience dressed in satin petals, and proof that even in the heat, elegance can thrive and inspire. Arcure. 4. Coral vine, the buzzing jewel of the summer garden. From the romantic whispers of roses, we now turn to a vine that hums with life and energy: coral vine. The first time you see it in full bloom, it almost feels unreal. Its delicate pink blossoms cascade like streams of confetti, yet this plant is tougher than it looks. In fact, coral vine is one of the few climbers that laughs in the face of scorching heat, poor soils, and relentless sunshine. For gardeners who have tried and failed with fussier plants, coral vine feels like a gift: generous, forgiving, and endlessly rewarding. What makes coral vine unforgettable is not just its beauty, but the way it invites the world into your garden. Bees adore it, and you'll hear their steady hum every time you step outside. If you've ever dreamed of a garden that feels alive with motion and sound, this vine will give you that joy. And while it does die back when frost arrives, don't mistake that for weakness. Its roots are hardy, and by spring, it reawakens with even greater vigor, racing up trellises, arbors, and fences like it owns the space. Yes, it can get a little messy when it sheds leaves and blooms, but that is a small price for the spectacle it creates. Coral vine is not just another plant. It's a living reminder that beauty can thrive even in the harshest conditions, and that sometimes the most fragile-looking blossoms carry the strongest spirit. This is the kind of vine that teaches us resilience while painting our gardens with joy. Chapter 5, Ladybank's Rose, a gentle giant with a golden heart. As coral vine fades back with the seasons, another remarkable climber steps forward: Ladybank's Rose. Unlike the high-maintenance roses we often picture, Ladybank's is a gentle giant, known for its resilience and grace in hot climates. It can stretch 20 feet in every direction if given the space, cloaking fences, pergolas, or even entire walls in a soft cascade of greenery. And when spring arrives, something magical happens. It erupts into a cloud of delicate yellow or white blooms, so many that the foliage almost disappears beneath the waves of flowers. For those of you who dream of a statement plant, something that announces itself without demanding endless work, Ladybank's Rose is a perfect companion. It's surprisingly tolerant of harsh sun, even that unforgiving western exposure that scorches so many plants. And while it needs well-draining soil and a bit of shaping after it finishes flowering, it's far less demanding than other climbing roses. Think of it as the low-drama member of the rose family, content to grow strong and steady without asking too much in return. There will be some pruning, of course, to guide its canes and keep its shape, but it's nothing compared to the reward of standing beneath its arching branches in spring. For a few precious weeks, your garden becomes a golden tunnel, fragrant and alive, a space where time feels slower and softer. Ladybank's Rose teaches us that sometimes patience brings the greatest spectacle, and that even in the hottest places, gentleness and abundance can flourish side by side. 6. Lavender Starflower. A year-round touch of purple from the golden clouds of Ladybank's Rose. let's step into the steady charm of lavender starflower, a vine that doesn't wait for just one season to shine. This plant is a treasure for hot climate gardeners who crave consistent beauty. Its evergreen foliage stays lush through the year, while bursts of delicate purple blooms appear again and again like little surprises scattered across time. It's the kind of vine that quietly supports your garden's rhythm, filling in the gaps when other showstoppers are resting. What makes lavender starflower so appealing is its adaptability. If you have a small yard or even a compact courtyard, you can train it as a bush, shaping it neatly with gentle trims. But if you want drama and height, give it a trellis or wall and watch it climb, weaving its way upward with enthusiasm. In fact, it responds well to rejuvenation. You can cut it back hard every few years, and it will return even stronger, a living reminder that renewal often follows letting go. For those of you balancing busy lives but still longing for a garden that feels alive every time you step outside, this vine is an ally. It isn't fussy, it doesn't litter much, and with just occasional feeding and water, it rewards you with beauty across seasons. Picture it, a hot afternoon, the air still and heavy, yet in your garden a soft shimmer of lavender blooms glows against the green. That's the quiet gift of lavender starflower, a vine that doesn't just endure the heat, but brings steady joy through it. 7. Lilac vine, the winter bloom that lifts the spirit. As summer's heat lingers and many plants retreat, lilac vine steps forward with a gift few expect. Blooms that arrive in the cooler months, just when the garden feels bare. Its delicate purple flowers, sometimes blushed with white or pink, appear in winter and early spring, transforming fences and trellises into living tapestries at a time when color is most needed. For gardeners who find themselves longing for life in the quiet season, lilac vine is like a gentle reminder that beauty doesn't have to wait for spring. This vine is fast-growing, adaptable, and forgiving, a true ally for those of you who may be working with native soils that feel stubborn or uncooperative. As long as the soil drains well, lilac vine thrives, stretching upward with grace, covering arbors or walls with a lush, leafy curtain. It's drought-tolerant once established, which means it's not just pretty, but practical, especially for busy plant lovers who can't always tend to every leaf and stem. When its season of bloom arrives, the effect is unforgettable. Imagine stepping into your garden on a chilly morning and being greeted by a cascade of purple flowers glowing against the cool air. It's a simple joy, yet profound, lifting your spirits and reminding you why you chose to nurture your space in the first place. Lilac vine may not demand much, but it gives generously, filling the quiet months with color and turning the coldest season into one of hope and renewal. 8. Passion fruit vine, beauty that nourishes body and soul. From the soft elegance of lilac vine, we move to a climber that offers both wonder and reward, the passion fruit vine. Few plants combine such striking beauty with something you can actually taste, but this one does it all. Its flowers are unlike anything else in the garden, intricate purple and white creations that look almost otherworldly, as if painted by an artist with infinite patience. And when pollinated, those blooms transform into glossy fruits, heavy with sweetness, ready to be gathered once they drop to the ground. For gardeners who want more than decoration, this vine is a dream. It climbs vigorously, covering fences, arbors, or pergolas in a cloak of deep green leaves, giving shade while promising fruit. But like all treasures, it asks for care. Deep, well-draining soil, steady water, and protection from frost when the nights turn harsh. It may take a couple of years to bear generously, testing your patience, but the harvest that follows makes every season of waiting worthwhile. Picture this, a summer afternoon in your backyard, the air hot and dry, yet your arbor is dripping with passion fruit, their fragrance mingling with the scent of leaves warmed by the sun. You cut one open, savoring the golden pulp inside, and suddenly your garden is not just a place of beauty, but of abundance. The passion fruit vine reminds us that tending a garden isn't only about what pleases the eyes, it's also about nourishing the body and feeding the soul. 9. Skyflower, a tropical touch in the heat. Leaving behind the fruit-bearing abundance of passion vines, let's step into the elegance of skyflower, also known as Duranta. This vine has a presence that feels almost tropical, with glossy green leaves and cascading clusters of purple, blue, or even white blossoms that sway gently in the breeze. In hot climates where many plants struggle, skyflower doesn't just survive, it flourishes, creating a curtain of color that feels lush and exotic, as if you've transported a piece of the tropics into your own backyard. For those of you dreaming of a garden that feels like an escape, skyflower is the vine that can make it real. It grows quickly, climbing high when given a trellis or wall, or spreading wide when shaped as a bush. It's a plant with personality, flexible enough to match your space and strong enough to handle full sun, even the harsh, reflected light that might scorch more delicate companions. And while it loses its leaves in colder spells, most of the year it remains tidy and low maintenance, a rare balance of beauty and practicality. What makes skyflower special is the way it turns ordinary corners into living art. Imagine walking out to a once plain fence, now draped in clusters of violet blooms that attract butterflies and bring a sense of movement to the air. It's not just about having flowers, it's about how those flowers transform the energy of your garden. Skyflower whispers of distant shores, of warm breezes and endless summers, reminding you that even in the toughest climates, your space can feel like a sanctuary touched by paradise. 10. Star jasmine fragrance that welcomes you home. From the vibrant tropical touch of skyflower, we move to a vine that appeals not just to the eyes, but to the senses in a deeper way. Star jasmine. This plant doesn't need to shout for attention, because the moment it blooms, its fragrance finds you before you even see the flowers. On a warm spring evening, the air around it becomes sweet, almost intoxicating, wrapping you in a scent that feels like comfort and romance all at once. Star jasmine grows with quiet determination, climbing trellises, fences, or pergolas as its twining stems reach for the sky. It thrives best with a little afternoon shade in the hottest climates, making it a perfect choice for patios and entryways where people gather. Its star-shaped white flowers appear in clusters, each one delicate on its own, but together they create a luminous display that glows against the dark green foliage. Even when it's not in bloom, its glossy leaves provide year-round greenery that softens hard edges and creates a sense of calm. For gardeners who want more than just looks, this vine is a gift. It asks for little: occasional pruning, some mulch to keep the soil cool, and patience while it establishes itself. Once it settles in, it becomes a reliable companion, greeting you with bursts of fragrance season after season. Imagine returning home after a long day, opening your garden gate, and being welcomed by the perfume of star jasmine drifting through the air. It's not just a plant, it's an experience, a living reminder that gardens are meant to be felt as much as seen. 11. Grapevines, shade, and harvest woven together. After the sweet fragrance of star jasmine, let's step into a vine that carries the weight of history and tradition: grapevines. For thousands of years, grapes have been symbols of abundance, of shade, of gatherings shared beneath leafy pergolas. And in your own hot climate garden, they can bring that same timeless magic. Picture yourself sitting beneath a canopy of broad green leaves, dappled sunlight filtering through, with clusters of ripening grapes dangling just above your head. It's not just gardening, it's creating a living retreat. Grapevines thrive when given strong support and thoughtful pruning. They love full sun, and in return they gift both beauty and utility, shade that cools your outdoor spaces and harvests that bring flavor straight to your table. For gardeners who want their efforts to yield more than just decoration, grapes are a natural choice. They require some patience, as training the vines and shaping them takes time, but once they settle in, they reward you season after season. What makes grapevines so captivating is how they transform a space. An ordinary pergola becomes a green ceiling, a bare fence becomes a fruitful wall, and a backyard gathering feels instantly richer with the sight of grapes overhead. They connect us to traditions of old vineyards and family meals, reminding us that gardens are not only for the eye, but for the spirit in the body as well. In the heat of summer, when shade is priceless, grapevines stand as both shelter and sustenance, living proof that beauty and usefulness can grow hand in hand. 12. Pink trumpet vine, a festival of color in the heat. From the timeless abundance of grapevines, we now arrive at one of the most exuberant performers in any hot climate garden, the pink trumpet vine. True to its name, this climber bursts into life with large, trumpet-shaped blossoms in shades of rosy pink, each one flaring open as if announcing a celebration. When it's in full bloom, it feels as though your fence or trellis has been draped in ribbons of color, turning even the dullest wall into a radiant display. This vine loves the sun and responds to it with vigorous growth, stretching high and wide with enthusiasm. For those of you who dream of dramatic transformations, pink trumpet vine is the artist you've been waiting for. It covers arbors, walls, and pergolas quickly, creating not just beauty, but a living screen that softens hard structures and brings shade. And when the blooms appear, they invite pollinators to join the party, drawing bees and butterflies that add even more movement and life to your garden. Of course, such energy needs guiding hands. A little pruning keeps it in shape, preventing it from overwhelming nearby plants or structures. But this is less a chore and more a chance to direct its energy, shaping it into the vision you want for your space. Imagine stepping outside on a hot afternoon and being greeted by cascades of pink blossoms glowing in the sun. It's not just a vine, it's a reminder that even under the harshest heat, joy can thrive in living color. Turning heat into beauty with perennial vines. And so, we've walked together through 12 incredible vines, each with its own way of thriving where the sun blazes hottest. From the fiery colors of bougainvillea and Cape honeysuckle, to the timeless elegance of roses, to the nourishing gifts of passion fruit and grapes, these plants remind us that heat doesn't have to mean emptiness. It can be the stage for resilience, abundance, and unexpected beauty. Whether you garden in a sprawling backyard, a small patio, or even along a single fence line, there is a vine here waiting to transform your space into something alive and deeply personal. Think about what speaks most to you. Is it the fragrance that greets you at the gate, the shade that cools your afternoons, or the harvest that fills your basket? Gardening is not about copying someone else's design. It's about weaving plants into the rhythm of your own life. And the beauty of perennial vines is that once they're rooted, they return year after year, stronger, fuller, and more connected to the place you call home. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these vines excites you the most? Do you already grow one of them? Or are you dreaming of adding a new favorite to your garden? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I truly enjoy hearing your stories and learning about the journeys of fellow plant lovers. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Earthly Delights for more inspiration where soil meets soul. Together, we'll keep growing beauty, even in the hottest corners of the world.